Hey, good morning. It's Uncle Lou here. Yeah, that's right. It's me, Uncle Lou, live for you on LouTube today. And thanks for watching. I really appreciate it. Back with another preview, team preview today. We're previewing a ton of teams heading into the start of the 2018 college football season. I'm going to be doing one, sometimes two teams a day, leading all the way up to the start of college football. Done a lot of teams already: Michigan, Texas, Notre Dame, Clemson. I'll put a link up here to a playlist that's going to include all the previews I've done. After you watch this video, if you want to check it out, you click on it now if you're more interested in one of those other teams. In-depth team previews coming up now through the start of college football season. If there's a team you want me to preview, go to the description of this video, click the first link. It takes you to my Patreon page. The link says want to support the channel and win a jersey, I think is what the link says down there. Click that link, head on over to the Patreon page. If you sign up on the Patreon page, I will guarantee you I will preview any two teams that you want me to. Now, I'm doing a ton of teams, whether people suggest them or not, but if for some reason there's two teams you absolutely want to make sure that I do, that's the best way to make sure that that happens. Today's video is a request from Patreon member Kyle T. So Kyle, good morning, sir. Thank you for supporting the Uncle Lou channel, and this preview is for you. The Virginia Tech Hokies are up today. Anyway, I've wasted just about enough time. Oh, don't forget live stream tonight, 10 p.m. We do that every Tuesday and Thursday night. I take phone calls from viewers and we talk/argue about college football. Check that out if you haven't already. Almost to 10,000 subscribers, and I'm gonna do something when we hit 10,000. I haven't exactly figured out what yet. I've narrowed it down to a few choices. If you've got any other ideas of what I can do or what I should do when I hit the 10,000 subscriber mark, let me know. Of course, I set a goal in January. I wanted to get to 10,000 subscribers before the season started. I'm about 500 away, and we got about 6.5 or 7 weeks to get me there. I think we'll do it. But if you would share this video with your friends on your Facebook page or your Twitter or whatever, I would appreciate it. Help me get a few more subscribers so we can try to reach that goal. Thumbs up this video if you're a Virginia Tech fan or an ACC fan or you're just a college football fan. Thumbs up this video, and let's get into this Virginia Tech preview. Let's go! All right, here we go. The Virginia Tech Hokies 2018 college football season team preview. I have to admit here, this is one of the hardest ones I've done for a couple of different reasons that I'll get into once we start going through the schedule. But they're a tough team to judge for 2018, in my opinion. Let's recap sort of what happened with them last year. A 9-win season, right? 9-3 in the regular season, lost their bowl game to Oklahoma State. So you say, well, 9-3, that's not bad. Not terrible. They finished second in the Coastal. Of course, they won the Coastal in 2016, second in 2017 behind Miami. Second in the Coastal, you say 9-3, and lost bowl game 9-4. Not too bad of a season. Well, that's true on the surface, but if you dive into Virginia Tech's season last year, and you start looking at who they beat and who they lost to, you start asking yourself, are they legitimately a 9-win team? And here's what I mean by that. And if you're a Virginia Tech fan, you can help me answer this question. What was your best win last year? What was Virginia Tech's best? How did they get to 9 win? What was the best win? West Virginia? They were a 500 team. Duke? You didn't beat a single team. Virginia Tech didn't beat a single team last year that finished with more than 7 wins. So Virginia Tech, while not a terrible team, beat up on a bunch of underachieving, below average teams last year. You beat a whole lot of 7-5 teams, 6-6, 5-7, and worse teams. When you played somebody that finished with higher than 7 wins, you got beat every single time. You lost by 14 to Clemson. You lost by 18 at Miami. You even found a way to lose to Georgia Tech. Embarrassing and sad. Now, I don't understand what happened there. And then, of course, Oklahoma State in the Camping World Bowl. You lost that game, too. So it's hard to find a big win for you guys last year. So I look at you and I see 9-3, 9-4 after a bowl loss. Like I said, if you just look at that schedule, you say, well, they must have been a pretty good team. I'm not so sure. And I'm a Fuentes fan. I like Virginia Tech's coach. He's going into his, third year now? Fourth year? I like him as a coach. I think he's got an elite offensive mind. We haven't seen it yet at Virginia Tech. Last year, they were led by their defense. Their defense, I think, was 4th in America, giving up only 14.8. Well, it was less than 14-something. It was under 15. But your defense gave up under 15 points per game last year. That's an elite defense. Now, of course, you see the teams you played, but that, it is what it is. You finished with a lot of schools play bad teams. You had one of the best defenses in America. The issue going into next year is you lose over half that defense. They're gone. 6 starters are gone from that defense. So you got a lot of work to do on the defensive side of the ball, replacing those guys. You lost 2 first-round picks. Now, your defensive line, I think you'll be okay at defensive line. You've got some experience there, some talent there. Linebacker, totally different situation there. Very inexperienced at linebacker. I think you guys are going to struggle at that position this year. You got some guys with some talent, but it's unproven. A lot of inexperience there. We'll see how that develops over the course of the season as those guys become more and more experienced. Now, your secondary, a similar story. You lost 3 starters out of your secondary, and if that wasn't bad enough, and yeah, I wrote some of this stuff down, but if that wasn't bad enough, one of your projected starters for 2018 has been ruled ineligible, and another one, a guy, I think you had him transfer in, didn't you? Tore his Achilles, so he's out. So it's looking iffy on the defensive side of the ball. You do have that freshman linebacker, I think it is, Dax Hollifield. He was very highly recruited, and he may end up having to play year 1. It's possible he's already your best defensive player, or at least has the highest upside and the most talent. But it's going to be the theme is your defense carried you to 9 wins last year. If you're going to repeat that this year, it's going to have to be the other way around. You're going to have to find a way to get that offense improved, because you're not limiting opposing offenses to 14 points a game over the course of the season this year like you did last year. Not with that amount of starters gone, these injuries, and what you have coming back. I just don't see it happening. On the offensive side of the ball, there's some good news. Fuentes finally has a returning quarterback to work with. This will be his first year at Virginia Tech with a returning quarterback. Josh Jackson, freshman last year. Played really well, honestly, for a freshman. Had almost 3,000 yards. I think it was 2,900 and something. And a pretty good touchdown to interception ratio, too. What was it? I wrote it down. 20-9. So you throw 20 touchdown passes, 9 interceptions. A little over 2-1. You'd like that to be closer to 3-1, but for a freshman, not too bad. And I like the yards total. They are pretty good for your first year there. What else? Your running game, you don't have one. Your running game is pathetic. You averaged under 4 yards a carry last year. How's that possible? I don't know. You got that running back Peoples. I sort of like him, but he's really like a short yardage goal line type of guy. And I get it, he's your best back, so you have to use him, all the time, or more than just in those situations. But he's slow as molasses, at least compared to other running backs. He could probably beat me in a race. That ain't saying much. But as far as college running backs go, the dude is slow. He is a bowling ball, hard to bring down, but like I said, more of a short yardage goal line type of situation there. More bad news, wide receiver. You lose Hazleton, was that his name? I wrote it down somewhere. No, Hazleton you bring in from Ball State. Now, this guy could be good. He had a really good freshman year at Ball State, transferred to Virginia Tech, sat out last year under NCAA transfer rules. He'll be playing this year. So I like this guy. He's got some talent, but the guy you lost, Phillips is who I'm thinking of, the guy you lost. That guy lit it up last year, set records at Virginia Tech for receiving yards. He's gone, so you've got some talent. I like your wide receiver spot. I need to see somebody step up and take Phillips' spot there, but I think you've got at least 2 guys on your roster, one of them being this transfer, that has potential to step up and become a true number 1 for you guys. Running backs I talked about just aren't any good at all. You do return 3 offensive linemen. That's a plus. So offensively, returning quarterback with Josh Jackson, experienced on the offensive line, talent at the wide receiver position. Running back is going to be the question mark, and I just honestly believe Virginia Tech's offense is going to have to score 7 to 10 points more per game at least than what they were able to put up last year if they want to get anywhere close to the 9-win mark that they hit last year, because I don't see the defense keeping them in all those games like they did last year. 75%. This is good news for the future for Virginia Tech. 75% of your roster is sophomores and freshmen. So not much experience as far as upperclassmen go on this year's Virginia Tech team, but loaded with talented freshmen and sophomore that Fuentes has brought in over the last 2 or 3 recruiting cycles. So the future is bright at Virginia Tech. So if you don't get where you want to go this year, never fear. Next year, be here before you know it. If you don't believe me, ask Tennessee fan. They've been talking about next year since Jimmy originally cracked corn. So if you have any questions about how to talk about next year, find a Voltard. All right, we'll get to the schedule now. Now, some good news here. Of course, the ACC has 2 divisions, Coastal and an Atlantic. Virginia Tech's in the what? Coastal? Is that right? I believe that's right. Anyway, good news is you have this, you have the one team you play and then the other team rotates, right? It's similar to an SEC type of thing. Well, you had to play Clemson last year. Good news is they rotate off the schedule. Bad news is you still play Miami. And that may or may not be good news for you. We'll see when we get to the schedule. Of course, they beat the bejesus out of you last year. So, yeah, you don't play Clemson, but, of course, you still have to play Miami. And taking Clemson's spot on the schedule, none other than Florida State. So, obviously, a step below Clemson, but we'll see how much of a step. All right, I'm going to put the schedule up on the screen, and we're going to run through this quick because it seems like this video is taking way too long. I don't know why. Week 1, on the road, week 1 against a big-time conference opponent. You don't see a whole lot of this in college football. You see a little bit of it. You don't see a lot of it. Now, you see some big games, right? Washington, Auburn. Last year, hit Alabama, Florida State. Georgia, North Carolina a couple of years ago. Tennessee and West Virginia this year. You see some big games, but you rarely see a big conference game week 1. A lot of teams don't like to do this. They like to schedule either a non-conference or a cupcake school or whatever. Not the case this year for Virginia Tech. Week 1, you got to travel down to Florida, Tallahassee, and take on the Fighting Willie Taggarts. Taggart and Baggart there down under new coach at FSU. FSU, a terrible team last year, lost their quarterback week 1. I mean, everybody knows the story. Nosedive, went downhill. What they finished 7-6, 6-6, something like. Anyway, point is 7. I don't know what they finished, but the point is it was right around 500. I can't remember the exact record. So not a good year. Does that mean they're not talented? No. They're more talented than Virginia Tech. Don't get it twisted. It was a terrible year. Jimbo Fisher 1 foot out the door last year. The team pretty much gave up. It was obvious and apparent to anybody that watched any Florida State games that really they were just waiting to get that season over. You got to go down there and play them at week 1. I put that in the toss-up category, and that's being generous. We'll come back to that one. All right, then you're going to reel off some wins here. Home with William and Mary, win. Home with East Carolina, win. At Old Dominion. The hell you playing at Old Dominion for? At Duke. Those are all wins, okay? Win, 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 win. You say, well, East Carolina's not that bad. You beat them last year, so you killed them, in fact. You'll do it again at home this year. So I think you dropped the first one. I mean, the first one's a toss-up, and then I think you reel off 4 wins here. 1, 2, 3, 4, right? Is that right? What am I doing? 4. All right, home game against Notre Dame. I'm not gonna lie, you guys, if you've been watching these videos, I've already done a Notre Dame preview like this one that you're watching now. I went back and looked at what I said about that Notre Dame Virginia Tech game. Of course, today I looked a lot deeper into Virginia Tech than I did when I made the Notre Dame video. If you've seen the Notre Dame video, then you know I gave Virginia Tech a win in this game. It's at home. I said I think Notre Dame drops that game. Because I did that, I'm going to stick with that, and I'm going to give you the win against Notre Dame. But I'm going to be honest with you here. After really going in and looking into Virginia Tech this morning, I'm really siding away from that. But I have to be consistent. I picked Notre Dame. I picked you to beat Notre Dame when I did the Notre Dame preview, so I'm going to leave it that way. for the purposes of this video. But I'm telling you right now, when this week comes around in college football and I do my weekly predictions or whatever, which if you guys weren't around last year, I preview all the big games throughout the week here on YouTube. I may very well end up picking Notre Dame to win that game here. Anyway, I gave you the win though because I thought that was fair since I did it on the Notre Dame venue. I didn't want to flip-flop it. All right, then you go on the road to UNC, one of the worst teams in the Power 5 last year, definitely at the bottom of the ACC. I think you win that game. That takes you into your bye week. Now, an interesting one after that, Georgia Tech at home. You played them there last year, Georgia Tech that is, and you found a way to lose. How is it possible that in a year when you had one of the best defenses that you've ever had statistically, right, top 5, only giving up 14 points a game, you found a way to lose to Georgia Tech? I don't understand. I mean, an elite defense is the key to stopping and beating Georgia Tech. So, I mean, that's a head-scratcher there. I can't figure that one out. So I had to put that in the toss-up category. My initial thought going through this schedule was automatic win. But again, after looking into some things from last year, I've got to put it in the toss-up category for now. We'll come back to that at the end. Boston College, not as bad as most people think they are, but not as good as Virginia Tech. I gave you a win there. No point really getting much more into that game. On the road at Pittsburgh, I gave you a win, but heads up here. Heads up. This is one of those games that you could easily lose during the season. Sort of falls towards the back half of the middle of the season. This sort of starts your home stretch of games, your last 3 games here. And I don't know, a lot of teams, it's hard to go undefeated, right? Even if you're better than every team you play. So when you're not better than every team you play, chances are you're going to lose to at least one team during the year that you're not supposed to. We see this all the time. This could be that game. So then you come back home and you get one of your toughest games of the year here, and honestly a game that could decide the division champion. This could be the game that decides which team goes to Charlotte to face Clemson in the ACC championship game. You get the Miami Hurricanes at home. Now last year, this was billed as one of the biggest games of the year. It came late in the season just like it does this year. You had to travel down to Miami to play. Virginia Tech was actually favored in that game if I remember right. Miami was still undefeated at that time, but there were a lot of doubters. A lot of doubters about Miami because of how many close calls they had over bad/terrible teams. A lot of people expected a wake-up call from Miami in this game. A lot of people expected Virginia Tech to go down to Miami and really put a whipping on the Hurricanes. The exact opposite happened. You traveled down to South Beach and got absolutely humiliated. I talked about it in the first part of the video, but you lost that game by 18 and it was never close. So you're looking for revenge here at home. I have it as a toss-up. I'll come back and talk a little bit more about that at the end. And then you finish your season with Virginia, your in-state rival. And you would think this would be an automatic win, but this is another one that after looking into some things, I put this in a toss-up category. I promise I did. And if that makes you mad, I'm sorry. I'll come back and give you a winner or loser in a minute. So let's go back to this first toss-up at FSU. They got a new coach. If you guys have been watching me over the offseason, you know I'm not a fan of their new coach. I'm not an FSU fan in general. However, Florida State is not a 5, 6, or 7 win team. They're just not. You hear me talk about this when I talk about teams like Florida and Florida State and a couple of others that had really bad years last year, and I try to figure out, is that really who they are, or is that some sort of a one-off fluke season? And in the case of Florida and Florida State, neither one of those teams are 4, 5, 6 win teams. They're just not. They're way too talented to only be winning 4, 5, 6 games a year. I don't expect Florida State to do that again this year. They're energized. They like Taggart down there. The Florida State fans that I've talked to are excited about what he's bringing down there. Obviously, he's going to be able to recruit the area really, really well without a problem. Offense changing up a little bit. They haven't decided on a quarterback. That's my hesitation in this game, is that Florida State hasn't decided on a quarterback. I don't understand why they I mean, to me, it would be Francois, not Blackman, right? I mean, Blackman looks, I mean, I've been down that road, but he's terrible. At least when you had Francois 2 seasons ago, you won more than 6 or 7 games. I don't understand why it's really a debate, but it is. They've got question marks there. Will both quarterbacks play this game? Will a third quarterback play in this game? Florida State would love to have a cupcake week 1 this year so they could sort of figure that out in a real game situation. They don't get that luxury. They got to play Virginia Tech. You guys, I feel like Florida State wins this game, but I'm going to tell you right now, this game could go either way. This is a tough game to call. If Virginia Tech's defense doesn't take quite as big of a step back as I feel like they are, Virginia Tech could probably win this game, because I'm a believer in Virginia Tech's offense this year with Fuentes, a returning, talented, proven quarterback, and Josh Jackson, and some talent at the wide receiver position. If they even had one really good running back, I would be a lot higher on Virginia Tech's offense. But I do like their offensive line. I like their quarterbacks, and I like their receivers. Question marks only at the running back position. I feel like Virginia Tech's going to have the best offense they've had under Fuentes this season. I just feel like the crowd is going to be a huge factor in this game, with it being Taggart's first game. It's at home. It's not a cupcake. It's a big conference game. I just feel like all those factors combined are going to be too much for Virginia Tech. On top of the fact that I feel like Florida State's going to win more than 7 games this year, and because of that, it's hard for me to pick Virginia Tech to beat them, because like I said in the beginning, you didn't beat a single team last year that had 7 or more than 7 wins. I gave Florida State the win there. The other toss-ups, Georgia Tech, I'm going to give you the win there. You're better than Georgia Tech. You were better than Georgia Tech last year. I'm not sure what happened. I didn't watch the game. Somebody will comment down below and tell me half Virginia Tech's team was injured or whatever. I'll tell you the same thing I tell everybody else. I don't care. You have 85 scholarships, same as every other team. There's a reason you have 85 scholarships and not 22, okay? It's because people get injured. So I feel sorry for any kid that gets injured. I feel terrible for any player that gets injured. But using injuries as an excuse for a loss, I have no sympathy, pity, or empathy for a team or a fan that uses injuries as a reason for a loss. You got the same amount of scholarships as everybody else. Anyway, you'll win that game at home this year against the North Avenue Nerds from Georgia Tech. Miami, I already told you, you lose that one. Virginia, you saying, how is this possibly a toss-up game? Well, here's why. Virginia's in a similar situation to Virginia Tech. They brought a new coach in. Virginia was in the absolute toilet. I mean, you couldn't have gotten any lower than Virginia was at as a program 2 or 3 years ago, unless you're Tennessee. That's it. They were just awful. But they brought in Bronco Mendenhall. I'm a fan of him too. Comes from BYU. I don't think he's as good of a coach as Fuentes, and I don't think he'll ever be able to recruit on the same type of elite athletes that Fuentes will. So I think over the long run, I would take Fuentes over Bronco Mendenhall. But Bronco Mendenhall has improved West Virginia every single year he's been there. 0 wins when he got there, I think. 2 his first year. How many did he win last year? 4, 5, 6? I should have wrote it down. I can't remember. So not a great year, but the trajectory is going this way there. And on top of that, so obviously you beat them last year because they didn't win more than 7 games, but you beat them 10-0. 10-0. So 10 points was all you could muster against a way below average Virginia team, right? 10 points, that's it. And of course, your elite defense that held teams to 14 points or less all year, or an average of 14 points a game all year, shut out Virginia, a terrible offensive team. Virginia's going to be better this year than they were last year. Virginia Tech, I'm not sure they're going to be better than they were last year. I think it's possible they end up being the same, but I don't think they're going to be better. So, loss at FSU, loss at Miami. I have you beating Virginia. Now, if you look at this schedule, then that's only 2 losses, FSU and Miami, right? You may not like this, the way I'm going to do this here. I'm not predicting you to go 10-2. I think at best you go 9-3. You know, Uncle Lou, you just went through all the games and you marked 10 wins and 2 losses. Like I mentioned a little while ago, hardly any team in America wins every game they're supposed to win. And I don't think for a second that Virginia Tech is talented enough, deep enough, or well coached enough yet even to beat all these teams that they're supposed to beat. You'll drop one of these games. If I had to pick, it would probably be this stretch of games where you play Georgia Tech, Boston College, and at Pitt. If I had to pick, I had all three of those as wins for you. If I had to pick a third loss here, it would be one of those three games. My prediction, Virginia Tech for 2018, you finish 9-3 in a second straight year, being second place in your division in the ACC. Have a great morning, though.